Now that you've gotten comfortable drawing models of molecules, it's time to tackle the mastery portion of the assessment. The following activities are designed to help you get ready to be successful on the mastery portion. If you remember from the rubric, the mastery portion asks you to draw a Lewis structure diagram of a molecule and then to compare and contrast that with a simple model of the same molecule. So that means we got to learn about Lewis structures. What is a Lewis structure? A Lewis structure is a simplified way to represent an atom and its outer electrons. It has two parts to it, the atomic symbol for the element and dots representing the electrons surrounding it. So what you've been doing for the last several days is drawing models of atoms with all of their shells full of electrons, and then you've been bonding the outer shell. What Lewis structures do is it takes away some of that work. It just focuses on the outer shell, and you use that to know where the atoms have to bond. So to do this, you start by finding your element on the periodic table. Remember, your element is like hydrogen or carbon or helium, whatever kind of atom you're talking about. Number 2, determine the number of valence electrons. If you've been studying Quizlet, you'll remember that valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell. So if an atom has 2 shells of electrons, you would be using the outer shell, the second shell. If it has 3 shells of electrons, you'd be using the third shell. The number of valence electrons, that's how many electrons you will need to make your model. In order to find that number, instead of having to draw it all out and count them, there's a quick way to do it. So on the periodic table, each column, up and down, columns are up and down, is called a group. Each column is a group. So if I look at my periodic table, this is group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3. Okay, each column is a group. Each element in a group has the same number of electrons in their outer orbital or shell. So if I go back to my periodic table, hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, these are all in the first group, the same column. Since they're group 1, that means they have 1 electron in their outer shell. The electrons in their outer shell are known as valence electrons. Now that we kind of have that figured out, we have to actually draw it. So when you're drawing it, there's 4 steps. Number 1, write the symbol for the element. So the first element we're going to deal with is carbon. Capital C is its symbol. Remember, if you go to the periodic table, you can find carbon, capital C. Number 2, you got to figure out how many valence electrons. For 6th grade, we're going, this group has 1 valence electron, this one has 2, and we're jumping. The one that starts with boron has 3, carbon's group has 4, nitrogen has 5, oxygen has 6, fluorine has 7, and this column over here has 8, with the exception of helium because it only has 2 total electrons. So you find the thing. So if we're dealing with carbon, we know that carbon, its atomic number is 6. But we don't want its total number of electrons. So we can divide these into their shells. So the first shell, we know, can hold 2 total, so we're going to fill that one up. The second shell six electrons. I used 2 in the first shell. That leaves me 4 for the second shell. 4 plus 2 is 6, so I used them all. Since this is my outer shell, these become my valence electrons. You can also do that by counting the group numbers. Remember, this is group 1, group 2, jump to the side. This is group 3, group 4. It's in group 4, so that means it has 4 valence electrons. Once I know the number of valence electrons, I have to put them around my symbol. So number 3 says start on the right. And draw the electrons counterclockwise. That means opposite of a clock. So a clock goes this way, so we're going to draw them this way, counterclockwise around the element symbol. So we start here. Here's my first electron, 1. Counterclockwise means I'm going to go this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If I had more than 4, I would go back and do a second one next to the ones I already put down. And just like we were doing when we were modeling atoms with all of their shells. So I put my 4 electrons. That's step number 3. Step number 4 says check your work. Did you draw the correct number of electrons? Remember, we always have to go back and double check. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon is in group 4. Its second shell has 4 electrons, so 4 valence electrons, which means that I am done with this one. I have checked it. Once you've got these notes, make sure you copied them all down right. You got everything you need. Then you can grab the next activity, which is the pink paper that's called Lewis structures, and it has the first 20 elements in the periodic table. That's your next task to get ready for mastery. Good luck.